The Donner DMK-25 Pro is an all-in-one mini Midi controller with all manner of keys, knobs, sliders and even some pads to lay down some sick beats on. It costs $110 to $200 depending on where you source it. It's a follow-up to the successful Donner DMK-25, well, non-Pro version. But is this an ideal compact keyboard and multifunction MIDI controller for you? Whether you're a complete beginner like me or even a seasoned pro. Let's find out. I'm James Bruce, you're watching MakeUseOf.com reviews, and this is the Donner DMK-25 Pro. So let's start with design. Clearly it's all black, very sleek, very compact. The keys feel good, but obviously they're smaller than average, so if you have big fingers then you may struggle with any compact key MIDI controller, and you should consider the Donner Starry key model instead, which has full-size keys. A number of elements around the controller are lit up, though not the keys themselves. It does still look pretty nice though, pretty cool overall, good aesthetics. In terms of actual size then, it's very compact at 337 by 183 by 26mm tall, or 13.2 wide, 7.2 depth by 1 inch tall, and weighs a scant 680 grams or 24 ounces due to the mostly plastic design. However, even though it's very lightweight, it doesn't move around in use due to the rubber feet, so you can bash away at the pads all day without worries there. So what do we actually have on the Donner DMK-25 Pro? The most obvious main feature, of course, is the 25 velocity-sensitive keyboard keys. They're reasonably deep considering the size of the unit, though again, not as deep as something like the Starry key or an actual piano. They do feel good for me, but again, not comparable to piano. They're quite soft. Then you have 8 also velocity-sensitive pads, and via the pad bank button you can swap between 3 arrays of samples. Those are backlit too, so you know at a glance which mode you're currently in, and they light up when you've pressed them. You can adjust the velocity curve for both the pads and the keys, and as someone who owns an actual electronic drum kit, this kind of feels like cheating sometimes, but hey, not everyone has room for an actual kit. Of course, the pads aren't just for drum sounds though, they can also be used for chords or scales, though as we'll get to later, there's no mapping software. So while something like Melodic supports it directly for learning, if I hop over to GarageBand, then I would have to program samples to each pad myself. You have a full set of actual transport buttons. These can be assigned in whatever digital audio software you're using. It's compatible with everything basically, since it's a standard MIDI function. You have touch-based pitch and modulation bend controls, and these uniquely feature little LED displays next to them, letting you know immediately where you're at with those. There's also a small OLED display for showing the current function, the key and the velocity, and there's a set of buttons to transpose keys or change octave, pretty standard stuff there. It also features a built-in chord mode and an arpeggiator. So if I demo that quickly here, you can press the ARP button, then you can change the type of arpeggiation and hold it down to set the tempo by tapping on the first key. The screen is pretty useful for this because there's a bunch of different modes, so you won't need to refer to a manual. Finally, on the top right, you have 4 customizable sliders and 4 customizable endless control knobs, which you can assign to whatever instrument or synth you're using. Again, these also have 3 different banks, so you can tap the button here to change those. But this time, the dials and sliders themselves don't light up, only that little button itself. I will say, though, that I think the sliders are the only disappointing element of the package. They're functional, but they feel very plasticky. And the slider mechanisms themselves aren't always consistent, on mine at least. Sometimes it's really smooth going up and down, sometimes it just seems to lose friction on the way down. They just feel a bit cheap on what is otherwise a decent feeling package. So really, overall quite a nifty, good-looking, compact MIDI controller with everything you could possibly need to get started and more. Are there any downsides? Well, there was no software in our box, no download or serial numbers, etc., despite the website claiming it had a free copy of Cubase LE and 40 free melodics lessons. Now, Donner did tell me that for the first however many thousand they'll be including that, so possibly it just didn't get included on my press review pack. But of course, if you're not in the first however many thousands, you'll get the same as I did with nothing at all, and it's kind of entirely on you to know how to get started. Thankfully, there's no drivers required, and in many cases it's as simple as just plugging it in and launching your favourite music DAW of choice. As it happens, I have a melodic subscription anyway, so I've been using that to play around with the keyboard and the pads there, then going over to GarageBand, which is free on macOS anyway, but there's no configuration software or official support package that you can download to reassign the keys. So it's all on you to configure the various MIDI mappings for your software of choice. Are there any other downsides? I mean, there's no Bluetooth or battery, so using it with your iPad or iPhone will require a MIDI connection kit. It's strictly USB only, and for me that's not an issue. I hate Bluetooth anyway, and built-in batteries never last, but that might be something you were looking for, in which case, look elsewhere. Personally though, I do think the cabled option is always going to be better. So comparing to similar products then, it's very similar to the Akai MPG Mini in terms of size and features, which is also around the same price point of $150. That one, however, lacks these assignable faders. It does have pitch and modulation bend, but it uses a kind of weird joystick method for that. It's a bit different, and it returns to center, of course, whereas with this you get actual feedback from the LEDs and the sliders. The Akai also doesn't have dedicated transport buttons. Instead, it relies upon key combinations, so a little bit more fiddly there, but you do get some decent included software with the Akai. You could also compare the DMK25 Pro to the Novation Launch Key Mini. Those are very similar, but that has 16 pads while this only has 8. Again, that doesn't have any faders, but it does have more physical control knobs. Again, you have the banks of knobs that you can choose from on this though, so meh. The main difference, I think, is that the Launch Key has better Ableton integration out of the box. From a beginner perspective, I feel like the Donner DMK-25 Pro is a really good entry point, both in terms of the key feel and the pads, but also in that it offers a lot of room to grow and expand once you figure out how to use all those other knobs and dials. It's got a lot to experiment with. It's not the most beginner-friendly due to the lack of direct software integration or support, but it does offer a lot of things to twiddle for your money. If you're looking for something to hold your hand more and really only interested in the keyboard side of things, then you might also want to check out the Popu Piano, which my colleague Christian reviewed earlier this year, and I also have one here. It's shipping now. The keys feel a bit better to me on this, and obviously it's just the keys. It's a different beast entirely, but it's got a lot more in the way of beginner-friendly software. It's wireless, it works over Bluetooth, and you can hook it up to your iPad to learn. And of course, it'll still work as a pure MIDI instrument once you want to get into the music production side of things and not just learning. So that's another option. Anyway, I hope this told you what you need to know about the Donner DMK-25 Pro from a beginner's perspective, at least. If it did, then hit like, I'd really appreciate that, and do consider subscribing for gadget reviews of the coolest gear and more from all of us over at makeuseof.com. Till next time.